Good morning, GRU. Good morning. This just in. You guys are awesome. 9 days ago, Grand River Unitarian held a fundraiser for a Better Tent City to help them buy a new range for their kitchen. The fundraiser's goal was $2,000, but you contributed $2,500. Last Sunday, you donated an additional $2,400 for a grand total of $4,900. Guys, we batted it out of the park. My name is Doug Moen, and this is another reason why I love this community. If you're new to GRU or are a first-time visitor, then know that all are welcome here, especially those searching for a spiritual home. There are many opportunities beyond our Sunday service to connect. Check out our website, our Facebook group, our weekly newsletter, and the displays around the building. If you are sitting in the pews, look for a welcome card beside the hymnals. You can fill out the card to be added to the mailing list or to request a name tag. Welcome cards can be placed in the offering plate. If you're watching us online, please visit grandriverunitarian.ca. Now I'd like to invite Rev Jess for some announcements.
Last week, we heard that our friend Lee Dickey is in hospital after a fall, and I was able to get an invitation and an address from the family in Alberta, and so there are cards for Lee if you would like to sign them, leave him a note. Those are just outside the sanctuary doors on a table to the left, so please sign and let's send Lee some love from GRU. Lee was a member here for like 50 years. We miss him. And secondly, today is Keenan's last Sunday with us as interim pianist, and I know that we will miss you. I heard from Stephen this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning from the airport in Hamburg, so apparently he really is on his way back. But we really enjoyed having you here, Keenan. And Keenan is offering us the gift of a mini concert today. You have time to go get your coffee, sign the card for Lee, and then come back up here around 12:30 for a mini concert with Keenan. So thank you for that. And when Keenan and I were talking about the subject for today's service, which is time, geologic time, I've asked Keenan to say something about his style of musical playing and how that connects with today's theme.
Hello. Hello. So today I'm playing a concert of rivers. They're inspired by a Canadian composer, Anne Southam. She's a wonderful composer. She wrote her own rivers, and then after playing her rivers, I thought I want to go for a swim in my own rivers. So they're kind of just really repetitive kind of meditations, and I'm supposed to talk about time and rivers. That's a big subject. So I don't know. It shouldn't be too long, and you can just, fall asleep if you want to. Take it. That would be a compliment. I'd consider my job well done if that happens, and maybe a river would too. So there you go. I don't know. Here you go.
Thanks so much, Keenan, and thank you so much for being with us this season. It's been a pleasure.
And now we set aside the busyness of our everyday lives and consent to rest this morning in the warmth of fellowship and the promise of community. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 350.
short person in pulpit. Evolutionary biologist Stephen C. Stearns offers this meditation to start us off this morning. Think of your mother. Now think of her mother. Now think of your mother's mother. Keep going back in time. Speed it up. We're at 10 million years. Now 100 million, a billion years. Every step of the way there has been a parent. At 3.9 billion years ago, something extremely interesting happens. You pass through the origin of life, and there's no parent anymore. At that point, you are connected to abiotic matter. Now, this means that not only does the tree of life connect you to all the living things on the planet, but the origin of life connects you to all matter in the universe. Every element in your body that is heavier than iron was synthesized in a supernova. Father Thomas Berry said, "The universe itself is a ritual in which we are called to participate." So come, let's participate together. Doug, will you light our chalice? Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek. Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds which link us to all people. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Children of all ages are invited forward for a story with Lisa.
Yes, that's right. After the story.
Good morning. So, today's story is called Hurry Up, a book about slowing down. And it's by, there's a sticker, Kate Koperak. Hurry up, hurry down. Hurry round and round and round. Hurry here, hurry there, hurry scurry everywhere. Is that what your classroom looks like? Hurry out, hurry in. Hurry if you want to win. Hurry so you'll reach the top. Hurry. That's a speedy dog here. Hurry. Hurry! Stop. We're going to drink that in. Stop. Slow things down. Take a break. Look around, for goodness sake. Breathe it in. Blow it out. This is what it's all about. Make a wish, take a walk, listen to the forest talk. Go explore and make new friends. Find out where the rainbow ends. Count the stars, easy does. Marvel at the nighttime buzz. Mosey home and stretch and yawn. Race is off and rest is on. No more fast, slow instead. Dreams and lazy days ahead. Thank you so much for joining me with the story today. Have a fun time.
We dedicate these gifts, freely given and received, to the work of this congregation, building honest, caring relationships across all lines of difference, growing in spirit and searching for meaning, together and apart, promoting freedom, practicing compassion, and working for justice. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community.
8th century Chinese philosopher and politician Guanzhong advised, to plan 1 year ahead, plant grains. To plan 10 years ahead, plant trees. To plan a lifespan ahead, plant people. In this sacred time together, we pause to reflect on the trials and triumphs of our personal journeys. You're encouraged to light a candle in silence, or if you are facing a personal transition or news you wish to hold up for the community's support, for celebration, prayer, or shared sorrow, you may share aloud. Our first candle is one of celebration for Ida Fisher, who received the happy news that her cancer has shrunk by 80%. So Ida is continuing her experimental treatment, which clearly is working. Congratulations, Ida. We love you and miss seeing you here in the sanctuary. Calls and appointments to visit Ida are always very welcome.
I will try to keep this short. I'm Ellen, and with Jim I was in Toronto yesterday to visit with his teenage friends from way back. That was fun. But then we want to visit our daughter, and on the streetcar on the way, and we missed another streetcar, suddenly we see this very tall guy, and he says, "No way, what are you two doing here?" It was our grandson. And if he would have been in another tram or in even another entrance, he wouldn't have seen us. Talk about the universe, eh? Thank you. Excuse me.
I like to light a candle of gratitude after a difficult pregnancy. On Tuesday, my daughter gave birth to healthy twin boys, and mother's doing well also.
Thank you, Dana.
Hello, my name is Kathy Kundrink. It's been a while since I've been here. Last September, I had a health issue that changed my life dramatically and is still changing it. But I want to say how grateful I am for this community and for when I haven't been able to make it to church, to be able to watch online. It's been wonderful to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thanks to all our techs for making that happen.
We got like a queuing issue up here. Good morning, I'm Jessica. I lit a couple of candles. The first one to celebrate, it's Passover. And so if you're of that persuasion, celebrating that story of liberation. And I lit a candle that we would continue working for the liberation of everyone. And then my second celebration is for Ryan, who decided to sleep in because it's his birthday today.
Another tech for whom we are very grateful.
I'm Charlotte. I'm lighting a candle for my good friend Laura. On Monday, her 18-year-old son, Nate, took his own life.
Let's take a deep breath in. Let that news and the sorrow settle in our hearts. Our lives are necessarily always vacillating between joy and woe. So our heart goes out to all of those affected. We'll light a final candle for all those joys and sorrows for people unknown to us, suffering and struggling in ways we cannot imagine. Will you join in singing with me our pastoral prayer? Let's dedicate this to your friend Laura today. Number 123. The words are in the order. Our meditation is by Wendell Berry, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. On the afternoon of April 8th, many of us, for hours or for minutes, were engaged and enthralled by the solar eclipse. This cosmic event unfolding in the sky in our midst was a reminder of forces beyond us, worthy of awe and speculation. True, the doomsday prophets awaited Armageddon, but most of us just wanted to see something cool, something usually unseen, the sun's corona, the life-giving force beyond our ken. Many among us traveled to be in the path of totality. Cloud cover threatening to dampen the event and other work obligations, my partner and I opted to stay home in our backyard with a near 99% totality. By 2 o'clock, the clouds yielded to bright blue sky, so we settled into lawn chairs under the waving branches of a giant oak tree, stargazing in the middle of the day with our pharmacy-certified cardboard glasses at the ready. As the early, eerie dusk started to descend in mid-afternoon, the ground view grew hazy, colors shifted from the visible spectrum, and the sky's hue deepened and darkened. Donning our glasses, we watched the shape of the sun eaten by a black shadow moon, a chilling curtain drawn across the sun's celestial stage, only to emerge again for a late afternoon encore. It is as though time has collapsed, fitting a day into an hour, a tax on infinity. The thumb-sized sun from Earth's vantage point no longer infallible. Otherwise, the yard is silent. Our human neighbors are working or traveling, but we are not alone. Our reverie is punctuated by confused birds twittering in the still bare tree above us, chattering their concern of the foreshortened day, the squirrels scurrying, lurking, and chirping near the feeders. At 99%, the world darkens, but daylight does not disappear. There's no corona on view from these cheap seats in our two-seated amphitheater. Yet we watched and marveled, knowing we were numbered among many thousands of witnesses to this same phenomenon. Seeing something so strange, it's no surprise it was met with consternation and alarm by ancient ancestors for whom the sun's steadiness had been taken for granted. And even those wise enough to predict its coming, the span between events is so vast that it took a lifetime or more to prove them right. What, I wonder, is the sun's eye view of our human cares? The sun blinks a reminder that the entire span of existence of the human species is barely one grain of sand in the cosmic hourglass counting geologic time. From the path of totality, we are reminded by nature the wisdom of taking the long view of things. Richard Fisher, the author of The Long View, Why We Need to Transform How the World Sees Time. Fisher writes, it can be daunting to reflect upon the really long view. Nature measures the passage of time in stratigraphic eras and evolutionary adaptations. Civilizations measure in religions and empires. Societies in states and revolutions. Yet for a human being, the units of significance are years, generations, or at most, our short lifespans. This limited perspective removes deep time from our known experience. Geologist Charles Lyell likened it to a circle of light expanding into the dark. It illuminates as it goes, but as its circumference grows, so does the boundary between light and dark. In other words, the more we learn about our place within time and nature, the more we become aware of our true insignificance and how little we know. Witnessing a solar eclipse can be one of the sublime moments in our lives, a moment that rescinds our human hubris, at least for a minute, revealed as folly in a cosmic perspective. A moment that raises our gaze of awareness from the gauze of our illusion that we humans are the center of anything universal. Immanuel Kant said that the sublime defies the mind's attempts to hold it all in view. Its encounter suspends our powers of comparison and arouses a contradiction of emotions. Kant said, the sublime provokes a sense of powerlessness, akin to when one encounters threatening cliffs, thunder clouds towering up into the heavens, volcanoes with their all-destroying violence, hurricanes with the devastation they leave behind, the boundless ocean set into a rage, the lofty waterfall on a mighty river. These are daunting experiences that can instill a kind of awful horror. But these same encounters also give rise to an awe-filled wonder, to astonishment, which in turn can elevate the strength of the soul. Yes, we humans are so insignificant in comparison. And yes, look at what we are called to be part of in this delight of living, suspended in an interconnected, interdependent web of existence. We are part of all that is, all that was, and all that can or shall be. As such, we are called to think beyond ourselves, taking a world's eye view. That we don't do so is among the most central challenges of our age. The driver behind many of the crises we are currently navigating is our habit of short-term thinking. Most of us in this culture have come to think of time as directly correlated to productivity, and how we spend the limited resource of time can be used as a moral judgment, then, of our character. Time is money, they say. But this idea of industrial time is a relatively new timescape in human history, one that removes our human rhythms away from the natural world. In doing so, time has become a commodity, subject to the whims of a free market exchange, bounded by cultural constructs of a time ethic and a time thrift. Our relationship then to time can objectify it as though the future can be shaped and therefore handed down to a younger generation like a family heirloom of dubious value or use to those who we may expect to treasure it with gratitude. When really, because we cannot predict what future generations will need, the greatest legacy we can leave behind is simply choice. As Unitarian Universalists, this primacy of choice is embedded in our theologies. Its expansion is one of the aims of our social justice work. Its protection, one of the aims of our political activism. In order to cultivate a legacy of choice for generations to come, we first have to reconceive our relationship to time itself, to place ourselves in a different context within history and possibility, with the present not just a hinge opening one way into the forward-facing future, but also reaching in a through line to past generations, to reclaim wisdom and regain our bearings to better navigate current tides of change. Fisher writes, "It's easy to assume that taking the long view simply means looking ahead to the future. This is an important part of it, but I believe that a richer, broader perspective comes from projecting the mind across the entire arc of time." Richard Fisher notes that one of the dangers preventing a shift toward the long view is the ever-shifting baseline, which obscures both problems and needs to address it. When it comes to the challenge, for example, of addressing climate change, Fisher observes, researchers have found that people have gradually normalized the increasing frequency of weird weather events and rising temperatures. When there's a shifting baseline involved, it can be particularly hard to spot slow change. It's not just that people fail to notice it as it plays out. The problem is that a new generation comes along and accepts what it sees in the world, so never even questions it. The problem with shifting baselines is that humanity itself comes to collectively forget the world as it once was, and so makes judgments about its future based only on what it perceives in the present. I want to say that again. The danger is when we forget, we make judgments about the future based only on what we perceive in the present. 18th century political theorist Edmund Burke wrote that society is a contract, covenant, a partnership, he says, not only between those who are living, but between those who are living, those who are dead, and those who are to be born. Many of our current crises that threaten us today are caused or worsened by short-term thinking, particularly the prioritizing of short-term gains. Typically, profit, momentary comfort, feeding a 24-hour news cycle, or ensuring popular political whims and opinions. Short-term thinking is what allows violence, war, economic disparity, and climate change to accelerate. And in the meantime, corporate entities are subsidized in the same cities where there's never enough money or political will to demand we do better than warehousing elders, undermining education, underfunding healthcare, and criminalizing poverty. If it is our duty to future generations to make our legacy the handing down of available, viable choices, we will have to learn to become more long-minded, to employ temporal empathy, to expand our present choices beyond a single election cycle, beyond the next news cycle, beyond this month's tax filing deadline. We stand in the long run to all be better off if we insist on the rubric of how the impact of our actions affects future generations. True, As a species, we humans are infants compared to the infinitude of nature's procession. But while we are here, we might engage in what geologist Marcia Bjornerud calls timefulness. Timefulness, an acknowledgement that the world is made by and made of time. To be timeful, she says, is to feel an acceptance and reverence about the eons that each of our lives sits within. The geologist says, I am comforted by the knowledge that we live on a very old, durable planet, not an immature, untested, and possibly fragile one. And my daily experience as an earthling is enriched by the awareness of the lingering presence of so many previous versions and denizens of this place. This call to develop timefulness may sound daunting, but there are many human cultures who hold very different ideas of time than ours. We are accustomed to thinking of time as a path, a track along which we travel forward-facing. But what if, as in other human cultures across the globe, we conceive time as flowing through us, as a wind does through the trees? Or what if we measured time in sets of 7 generations, 3 generations of ancestors that begat us and 3 generations of progeny beyond? Or what if time surrounds us like an ocean through which we float, as in the Australian Aboriginal concept of every when? Our tools to develop timefulness are similar to those we cite in cultivating mindfulness, a concept perhaps more familiar to us. We develop timefulness when we share our stories, when we commune with the natural world, when we share witness of marvels we encounter, when we take a deep dive to learn about world events, not the surface headlines and clickbait, but the long-range analysis. We develop timefulness when we share our hearts, our hopes, our fears with one another. We develop timefulness when we engage in rites of passage, births and graduations, bridging ceremonies for our youth, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, memorials. As Unitarian Universalists, the 3 communions that frame our congregational year connect us to one another, to our history, and to the natural world in our celebrations of water in September, fire at the turn of the calendar year, and flowers in June. These rituals are invitations to place ourselves differently in time, to become part of a bigger story of us as a people, of us on this planet. Rituals like these remind us to slow down, invite us to step away from the busyness of ordinary time, back away from the false urgency of the industrial time complex, and to engage in meaning-making of our experience. Our souls, after all, are more aligned with geologic time than the face of a clock. There are ongoing projects in art and rites of religion and feats of architecture that move in soul time. Multi-generational efforts designed to take hundreds of years. The building of Catholic cathedrals and Egyptian pyramids, the Zoroastrian fire temples whose flames have lasted over 1,000 continuous years, Shinto shrines that are dismantled and rebuilt in a ritual that takes place every 20 years, art exhibits created using live growing trees, John Cage's composition for organ designed to last 639 years, appropriately titled As Slow as Possible. An ongoing performance in Germany of this work is now in its 22nd year, with the chord just changed 3 months ago. And the next chord, mark your calendars, is due to be played in August 2026. That's just to name a few of our human endeavors. These acts of community, whether they are an hour-long congregational celebration or centuries-long artistic endeavors, each of these centers us in humility because we cannot do any of this alone. Each instills in us then an existential hope, reminds us that despair is a luxury we cannot afford. Each helps us dig toward deep civilization, one with a richer sense of its roots and its trajectory into tomorrow. If we humans are capable of conceiving and implementing such long-term projects spanning multiple generations, then we might also do so in our political processes, our manufacturing practices, and our economic policies. 19th century Unitarian minister Theodore Parker said, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but a little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." Cultivating a sense of timefulness, exercising the long view means engaging in what Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl called tragic optimism, which he defined as the ability to maintain hope and find meaning in life despite its inescapable pain, loss, and suffering. It's a journey toward hard-won existential hope that author Richard Fisher knows well. And I'll close my reflection today with Richard's story. He writes, "One day, just a few weeks after my young son Jonah died, I was walking with my daughter on the way to school. Our route takes us through a church graveyard. That spring, it was dotted with bluebells, snowdrops, and long grass. The gardeners had been letting it overgrow to foster a wildlife reserve, letting the flowers grow wherever they emerged. At the center of the graveyard, I noticed a wide tree with a split trunk that parts and rejoins around a hole before splaying out above the gravestones. Looking at its shape that day, I saw its branches as paths. If the trunk was the known present, then each of its splaying arms was one of myriad future possibilities. Walking on through that landscape of bereavement and wild blooming, I began to feel a bit more intact. It was a small reminder that there is always potential, even in the throes of loss and grief. Every time I walk past the tree and its interarborating limbs, I see a truth about time that has guided me ever since. The past may be singular, but the future is always plural. The past may be singular, but the future is always plural. And through that knowledge comes for me a sense of purpose. It shapes how I see the trajectories that lie ahead, and it shows me that while I am alive, I still have a role to play in this partnership across the generations. May it be so. Will you rise in body or in spirit to sing our closing hymn? The tune will be familiar to you. It's number 143 in our hymnals. Francis Weller, a self-acclaimed soul activist and grief therapist, recounts the story of meeting his mentor, Clark Berry, for the first time. They sat down together, and Clark reached to his left, placed his hand on a large rock lying on a table, and said, "This is my clock. I operate at geologic speed. And if you are going to work with the soul, you need to learn this rhythm because this is how the soul moves." Then he pointed to a small clock also sitting there, and he said, "The soul hates this." Weller says, "We humans need to be moving in a rhythm that is syncopated with that of the oaks and willows, heartbeats and touch. Timefulness is learning to move at the pace of soul time." Let us carry the flame, friends. the people say.